I'm Julie and welcome back to Scrapbook Spending Freeze 101. This is lesson number 5 and today I'll be talking mainly about the results of the survey that we did over in the Facebook group. So if you're not in the Facebook group and would like to be, then I'll leave the link down below for you to join up. If you haven't seen the first 4 episodes of Scrapbook Spending Freeze 101, I encourage you to start again at the beginning and catch up and see what it's all about. So basically on the group, 56 people filled out the survey, and of a group of around about 200 people, that's about a quarter, so that's a pretty good representative sample. So I'll just quickly go through a few things that came out of that and we'll see what we find out. So first of all, I asked, why are you doing a spending freeze? And you'll see that unsurprisingly, mostly we were overwhelmed by the volume of product that we've got. We wanted to save money and we didn't have enough room to store our existing product. I asked you how often you scrapbook, and you can see some of us get in there once a week or a few times a week. If you're in the category of once a month or less often, that's about 18 out of the 56. Obviously, your first priority is to get back into your craft room. There's really no reason to be spending any money on craft at all, and you know this, that's why you're here if you're not actually using those products. So I encourage you to have a look at some of the ideas that other people have found helpful to help them create, and just really try and get into the craft room and use up that stuff. I asked I asked if you've got a dedicated scrapbooking space or not. Now almost half of us have got a whole craft room. And I love my craft room, I'm not about to give it up, but in some ways I guess it might be a little bit of a trap for us. We've got a whole room and so we fill it up, and that's why we're in the trouble that we're in. So that's why we're here. On the other hand, 8 out of the 56 don't have a dedicated space at all. So at some point it might be nice to kind of maybe have a little bit of a discussion to help those guys. I guess for them it's about finding time, perhaps storage to ways to deal with half-finished projects, things like that. So perhaps we'll be able to discuss that later in the group. I'm not going to spend a long time on what we hoard and what we use, which was another thing that I asked, but by all means I have put the file up in the group. So if you want to have a look at that, by all means go over and have a look. I tell you what though, we all love paper, don't we? Unsurprisingly, paper really topped the charts in what we buy the most, and I know we've all just got acres and acres of paper in our craft room, but I'll be using that as some ideas for the kind of challenges that I put up later on. I asked what triggers us to spend and overspend. And I've talked about a lot of these in earlier lessons. So again, if you've missed those lessons, by all means go back and have a look. So a lot of us, there's wanting products I see being used on YouTube or wherever, unsurprisingly tops it out. 31 out of 56 said that, but browsing in-store, browsing online and advertising all certainly rate a mention. Someone in the other wrote sales, but I wonder how you're finding out about those sales. Is it because you're getting advertising or you're wandering to those stores? So by all means have a rethink about those strategies that we talked about, like avoiding going into the stores, trying to get as much as possible of, you know, the junk out of your inbox so that you're not kind of getting that stimulation. Okay, so the next thing that I asked was what motivates us to create, and those are the things that we really want to encourage. And top of the list was watching process videos on YouTube. 30 out of the 56 mentioned that as something that motivates them, and that's a really tricky balance when that's also something that motivates us to want to spend. So that's why I started my series Spending Free Scraplift, where I scraplift some of our favourite YouTubers just with using my own supplies that I've got on hand, and I kind of chat or plan to chat about just ways to combat the temptation to want to buy the things that they're showing us. So if you haven't seen that series, I hope you'll check it out, and I hope that you find that useful. Now, our friends is another really safe thing, and I'm so jealous of all you guys that have got friends that you can scrapbook with, because at the moment I don't have friends that I do craft with, unfortunately. They're very low on tempting us to want to buy, but still relatively high in motivating us to create. So if you haven't already, make sure you enlist your friends as at least as your support people, to encourage you in your spending freeze journey, and perhaps some of them might even want to do a freeze with you. If they are, why don't you challenge each other? You could swap supplies. There's no end to the kinds of challenges that you could do together. Online challenges are also high. Browsing for ideas on Pinterest also rates quite highly, and as things that motivate you to create. And participating in classes still rates a respectable 10. Okay, so there has been a bit of discussion in the group about participating in classes. Are we allowed, while we're on a spending freeze, to pay for a class, or does that mean we've broken our freeze? It wasn't something that really was an issue for me when I was doing my spending freeze, purely because my budget is so relatively small that I very rarely do classes. So it wasn't something that came up for me. Generally, as a group, I think we're pretty much in favour of being allowed to pay for a class. I think there's lots of positives about doing classes. There's the social aspect, which is very important. And of course, if it's motivating you to create, then that, again, is that's what we're actually about. Unless your very number one reason of doing a spending freeze is because you really literally have not 1 cent to spend, then of course, no, you shouldn't do a class. For anyone else, generally speaking, a class, you should definitely go ahead if you think it's going to help motivate you to use your stash to get yourself creating. Now, I loved that in the question, what motivates you to create, some people ticked other, and they wrote things like their grandkids. They wrote things like going through their stash and their photos. And I love this because, I mean, there's lots of great things about creating, but if scrapbooking is our chosen outlet of creativity, then really the subject of our pages really should be our number one motivation. So if you're sort of stuck there in a, not haven't done any scrapbooking for a while, get out those photos, have a look at the people that you love and the moments that you love and the memories that you have, and see if that can be your motivation to get creative again. Okay, so I also asked about themed products and about subscribing to kits, because I think they are both kind of traps that sometimes people can get into, where they build up too many supplies. I don't tend to buy a lot of themed product at all, so I am coming from that bias, but I think that we can get caught in a trap of thinking that we need themed products, and then we buy too much and don't feel like we can use them for something else. And I think if you rated yourself as 3 or higher, then probably you do have too much themed product in your stash, and that's certainly something that that we will be addressing, I hope, at some point in the group. Okay, so with kits, I asked, do you subscribe to any kits, and if yes, how many? And I do know that at least a few of you have recently given up your kit subscriptions, and good on you if you have. I know that some spending freeze groups allow you to keep subscribing to a kit and still be considered to be on a spending freeze. Now, not that I'm about rules, but to me that's more of a slow down than a freeze, which is fine if that's all you're prepared to do or feel able to do. That's up to you. It's still going to be better to spend less money in general, but as a general rule, I just think that the volume of product that you get in a kit is as much, if not more, than most of us can get through in a month. So it's hard to sort of feel like you're getting ahead. And you can see that those people that are still subscribing to kits, and don't worry because I'm not going to be naming and shaming, no one said that they always use them up. The trend is certainly to the right hand side of the scale of them starting to really pile up and get a little bit overwhelming. So if you are able, even to just stop subscribing to a kit for a few months, while you really dedicate yourself to creating and using up what's in your stash. I do think that you will find that really valuable. Now finally, the last question that I asked was for suggestions on what you would like to see in the group moving forward, and I do plan to use those as a basis for my future videos. I already have started that with my Spending Free Scrapbook videos, as I've already mentioned, and I'll use lots of your ideas, I hope, in my Spending Freeze 102 videos, which is the ones where I give you a challenge that you can use using only what's in your stash. A couple of suggestions centered around the idea of a more formal design team for the group. I don't know how much you would know about me. I have a casual job which is very irregular. I can work 40 hours in 4 days, or I can work 3 hours in a whole week. And unlike amazing people like Nicole Jones, I can't work all day and then scrapbook and make videos into a night. I would much rather sit on the lounge and then go to bed. So that's why I'm a bit patchy in what I post. I'm really just a scrapbooker who did a few videos mentioning that I was on a spending freeze, and people responded to that, and I thought, well, why don't I give this a go and hopefully encourage some of you guys to do the same, to do a spending freeze. So I'm still very much in the beginner phase in terms of YouTube and in terms of running a Facebook group, and I certainly don't feel like I have the time or the knowledge to organise a formal design team. However, if any of you are interested in contributing regularly or even semi-regularly to the group, leave a comment wherever you're watching this, either on YouTube or on the group, and let me know. And if even a few of you are interested, I can put up some sort of a schedule. You can choose when you would like to post, and really you can post about pretty much anything spending freeze related. If you're a YouTuber yourself, we'd love to see a video that you make, or even just a page that you've created with, you know, a challenge item of your own, a link perhaps to somebody else's video that you found inspiring, or a blog post saying that you found inspiring. So if you're at all interested in that, let me know and we can start up something like that. Other than that, thanks so much for listening to me rabbiting on. I hope that you're finding it useful. I hope that you are finding things that motivate you to create and avoiding those things that motivate you to spend. I have got one more video in this 101 series to go, which will just be about maintaining the sanity after you've finished the freeze. And other than that, any comments, make sure you leave them. If you're not already in the group, come on over and join us, and I'll catch you guys soon.